Hello everyone, Mrs. Trichome Champ here with another tutorial video for the Garden Tracker. Today we're going to go over the Pheno Notes page. If you've just popped a new batch of beans, you're probably going to want to see how each pheno is doing so you can start the process of picking that fire pheno. This page will help you keep track of your pheno hunt. You'll be able to track each pheno and all the pertinent information to make the best decision on which pheno is fire and which ones will need to be cut. You'll also be able to track how many males you've got out of the run along with the yield for this run. Now if you're doing a pheno hunt on multiple strains, you're going to want to make a new tab for each strain. So if you are working with multiple strains, then you do have to create a tab for each strain that you're working with. It is pretty easy. Just click on the Pheno Notes tab, and then to the right of all the tabs there's that little plus sign that says New Sheet. When you hover over it, click that and that's going to pop up that new sheet. From there we're going to have to go back to the Pheno Notes page and copy all this information. Again, to get the whole page to be set to copy, just click that little box that's above the number 1 and to the left of the A. That'll highlight the entire page for you. And from there you can either right click and copy, or you can use your shortcuts such as Control C and Control V. So I'm going to use my shortcuts for Control C to copy, and I'm going to take it over to this other sheet here, this blank one, and I'm going to use Control V to paste my information. Now let's say this particular strain is locomotion. So we'll want to double click that tab so that I can type in locomotion. And once you click off that page or off that tab, now that tab is named with the locomotion notes. So now you have that one set. If you need to do another one, you can do the same thing. Again, click on the Pheno Notes, hit that plus sign, and again you're going to copy the information and paste it again on that sheet. And then you'll double click that tab, and let's call this one Jedi OG Notes. So now you have a couple different strains worth of notes that you can work with. Now once that you have all of your tabs set up for the strains that you're working with currently, you'll want to go through and make sure that you have a pheno box for every seed that was popped with that strain. So let's say you pop 20 Jedi OG seeds. You're going to want to go through and make sure that you have 20 pheno boxes for that Jedi OG. Now if you only pop 5, then you're only going to have 5 boxes. Either way, you want to just make sure that you have a section set up for each particular pheno that you may have. And from here you're going to go through and number them 1 through 20 or whatever you've popped. Now that you have all of the boxes set up for the number of phenos you have, you can start updating this information. This pheno box is going to be the place that you're going to want to keep all the notes for that particular pheno, so that when you're done with that run, you're going to be able to come back to this sheet. You're going to be able to look at each individual pheno and see, based on the information that you've provided, which pheno is going to be the best to continue to run with and which phenos you may need to pass over at this time. So you're going to keep track of the height. Did you top anything? Did you delete? Anything like that. What was the terp profile at the ends? How many flowering lots? All of that good pertinent information that you want to keep track of by pheno. This is where you're going to want to keep all that information. Once you have your Pheno Notes tab all filled out, it's going to look something similar to this. You have the top where you can keep track of how many beans did not make it out of your run. You'll be able to keep track of your yield. And if you scroll down, I do also have pivot tables set up so we can keep track of the height from week to week. As you can see, I also like to make things more visual, so all of my female cuts that we had, all our female phenos, I labeled those in pink. If I had any males, I do have one down here at the bottom, I just labeled that one or color coded that one in blue, so I can visually look through the sheet, scroll down, I can see who are my males, who are my females, and then all these ones down at the bottom are the ones that did not make it, whether they didn't germinate or they did germinate but they just were a weak pheno and they were cut from the pack at that point. Once you have your notes sheet all set up and you are ready to set up your pivot tables, it's pretty simple and very easy to actually do. And in order to do that, you'll just want to put your cursor in the spot that you want the pivot table to go. Now, there's a couple different things you can do. You can do a pivot table where it's just kind of the information in a table format, or you can also include graphs or so on. So I will show you how to do one with a graph first. So in order to do that, up at the top, you're going to have Home, File, all that. You're going to go to your Insert tab. From Insert, you have Pivot Table over here, but you also have a Pivot Chart option. This is what we're going to use to add a pivot table along with that graph. So to do that, you can do Pivot Chart and Pivot Table, or you can do just Pivot Chart. Either one, it'll pull up that graph for you. So we'll just choose that first one. From here, it's going to ask you to select the table or the range of information that you're wanting to pull. So for us, we're wanting to do the heights, and we want to see how the heights progress from week to week in veg. So in order to pull that range, all we're going to need to do is, for that particular pheno that you're pulling the data for, you're going to highlight the columns that say week and height, and you're also going to highlight all the way down through the end of veg, how many weeks there are. So for us, we have weeks 1 through 9, so I'm going to highlight all of that, including the columns at the top that say week and height, because we're going to need those in order to sort the information at the end here. So as you have that selected and you let go, you're going to be able to see that it's highlighted with the green perforated dots around it. From there, you're going to be able to go over to this pop-up box and click OK. It's saying it's going to add it to this existing worksheet, and that's what we want to do. So once you click OK, it's going to give you all this information here. We're going to move this little graph box out of our way here because we don't need that at the moment. And we're going to click on the Pivot Table 1. From here, it's going to pull the information that we have. And like I said, we needed those column headers so that we can pull the information from here. So you're first going to click on week. Week is going to pop down in your rows box down here. And that's going to give you your rows so we know which weeks are what. From there, if you pull this down, you can pull it into whatever box you want. From here, we're going to want to put it in the values box. And currently, right now, it's pulling a count of the height, which it's just going to pull if there's a yes in this height box. If there's a yes, or I guess rather not a yes, but a number in this height box, it's going to tally a 1. And we don't want that. We want it to actually pull information where we could see the growth from the previous week. So in order to do that, you're going to click on the count of height that you see under your values box here. When you click that, this box is going to pop up. You're going to want to choose Value Field Settings. In here, you have many options to choose from. Sum, count, average, max, minimum, etc. For us, we're going to choose the max because we're wanting to see what the max height was for that particular week. So once you select that, you're also going to want to go over to this little tab here that says Show Values As. This is where it's actually going to pull the information and tell us the progress from the previous week. Once you click here, it's going to give you some options with another drop-down box. Under the Show Values As, you're going to want to scroll down until you find the difference from with the % sign in front of it. Once you find that, go ahead and click there. Your base field is going to be the week, and then on the base item, you're going to want to choose Previous so that it's pulling the difference from the previous week. Alright, so once you have that set, you're going to click OK, and it's going to pull the information. Now, right now, we don't have any information over in our chart here. So let's go ahead and we'll add some information, and then we'll have this pivot table pull the information for us. So let's just put in some numbers here for the height. We'll just kind of make something up here. So let's see. Let's see. Oops. All right, now that we have some numbers in there, we're going to want to click on this pivot table again so that we're pulling the information for this pivot table. Once you click that, you're going to see the pivot table fields pull up. Once this pulls up, you know that you're in the pivot table information. And from there, if you look up at the top, you're going to be able to see pivot table tools. You have analyze and a design option. For this, we're doing analyze because we're wanting to analyze the data that we're pulling. So from here, you're going to go to the data section. And this is, for the data that we're wanting to pull. Since we already have our source data pulled, it's pulling from our week and our height, we don't have to select that again. But we do need to refresh it because we've entered in numbers since we actually created the pivot table. So to refresh it, all you have to do is go up to the refresh option. You have either refresh or refresh all. We're going to choose refresh all. And once you do that, it's going to pull that information for you. There's nothing more that you need to do. Let's say you went in and you're doing this week by week. If you went in and you only got your first 2 weeks put in and you're on week 3, you're going to enter in your week 3 data. You're going to come up to analyze, you're going to refresh it, and it's going to pull the week 3 data for you. So it's pretty easy, pretty simple. Now let's say you had to come in here and you needed to update something, and maybe you didn't pull all of the weeks by accident, and you need to change that source so it is pulling all 9 weeks. You're just going to go up to your source data, and you're going to choose Change Data Source. From there, it's going to pull up that little pop-up box and tell you that you need to select a table or a range again, and it's going to show you the range that you already have pulled. Now let's say you only had it pulled down to week 8. From there, you're going to be able to go in and change that. You just highlight the columns that you're needing to and the rows to go along with it that you're wanting to pull for that data. Once you do that, you're going to be able to click OK, and it's going to now pull the data from that source. But for us, it's the same source that we currently used, so it didn't change any of that data. Now that you have your pivot table set up and it's pulling the source or the data from the source, you can also see that the graph has also pulled information as well. It's pulling from that same pivot table. Now let's say you don't want a bar graph. Maybe let's say you want a pie graph. That's something that you can change here. In order to do that, you're going to want to go up to the Pivot Chart Tools, and under Pivot Chart Tools, you're going to go to the Design option. Under Design, you can, have options here up at the top to change your graph, or you can go to Change Chart Type, and you can actually choose to make it a pie chart from there if you wanted. So you just go in, choose the chart that you want, click OK, and go from there. You can also click on the graph and choose Chart Styles from this little icon here, this little paintbrush. Once that pops up, it'll give you different styles for the graph type that you're using. So since this is a bar graph, it's pulling other options or other styles that you can choose to use for that particular bar graph. So it's just going to show it in a different way. So you can choose the style you want. You can also go in and you can choose the color scheme if you want and make it, whatever color you would like. Now that you have a pivot table and chart all set up, we're going to pull just a regular pivot table for the flower heights. So in order to do that, again, you're going to click on the cell where you want the pivot table to start. So for us, we'll just click right next to the veg heights. And you're going to go up to Insert again, and this time instead of pulling the pivot chart, we're going to pull just a regular pivot table option. Here, everything else is going to stay the same. You're going to still pull the range of cells that you're wanting to use. So again, you want to make sure that you're also including the headers. So for us, we're going to pull the flower heights. Now for us, I do have the flower in here week 1 through 9. Now we don't necessarily take our heights all the way through week 9 of flower. We generally only take them through week 3. But since I have this here as well for, topping and deleafing, I have it sectioned all the way out. But for this, we're only going to pull the first few weeks here, because like I said, we only do our heights through week 3. So I have my table or my range set. I can see what my range is, again, because it's in that green perforated dotted area. And I'm going to click OK. And now I got my pivot table set up here. Now from here, as I can see, I've clicked on the pivot table area and my pivot table fields pulled up again. This is going to be just the same as pulling for the veg. So you're going to click on the week. You're going to pull your height down to your values. And again, it's showing count of height, so we need to change that. So we're going to go to our value field setting. We want to set that to the max so that we're pulling the max height for that week. And then again, we want to see with the progression from the previous week. So we need to go to Show Values As. We need to choose our percent difference from. The base field is going to be week, and the base item is going to be previous. Exactly the same as the last pivot table we did. Once we click that, it's going to pull the information, but again, we don't have any numbers over here. So once we add in some numbers here, we're going to want to refresh it. So let's add some numbers and see what we get. Alright, so I got my numbers. I need to click on my pivot table so that I know that that's the pivot table I'm working with, and this is the information that I want to refresh. So it's highlighted. I have my pivot table tools up here. We need to go to Analyze, and we're going to go to Refresh and Refresh All. Once we refresh all, there we go. We got our percentages up here. And that's all that's to it for the pivot tables. Alright, so that's all to the Pheno Notes tab. And once you get your Note tab all set up, it's going to look something similar to this. You're going to be able to come in and look at each run that you had and the phenos for each run, and you're going to be able to look at the notes and see what cut is that fire cut, and you're going to be able to pick that one based on the data that you've collected. So with that, I do want to thank everyone for stopping in and taking a look at this tutorial. I hope it was helpful, and I hope this helps get you on the right path to that pheno hunting and finding that fire cut. And like always, if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us on the channel, or you can always send me an email at mrstrichomechamp@gmail.com. I hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you for the next episode. Stay lifted.